What I want to do is I want to remind you that we have one more Toolbox Tuesday coming up next week on September 30th at 1 o'clock Eastern. Next week, you're going to meet our new friends over at Cloud Auto. If you're not familiar with Cloud Auto, it is absolutely positively the best software built for any of those auto repair shops. And Cloud Auto and PayCompass have an exclusive agreement together. PayCompass is the only merchant services company that is fully integrated with their solution. So if you want to learn more about Cloud Auto, make sure that you join us next week on Tuesday. And after we wrap up next week on Tuesday, next week on Wednesday, I'm going to send you all those invites for all of our sessions coming up in the month of October. And as always, before we kick things off, this is all about you getting some knowledge and learning about new technology that's available to you. We do want your questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to interview our panelists for like the first 20, 25 minutes. And then we're going to break for questions. We're going to take your questions from the chat. And you're also going to have an opportunity to unmute your mic and get your question out there to our guest panelists. And then after that, there's going to be a product demonstration to which I know there's going to be even more questions. And towards the very end of the session, we'll do yet another Q&A. Let's get this kicked off and let's meet our special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, my gosh, we've been teasing this for months now. We have a brand new POS partner. You got a new tool in your toolbox. Today, we're going to meet our friends from Order Counter POS, and my special guests are Matt and Ashley. Matt and Ashley, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. How's it going, Scott?
It is going absolutely fantastic. Look at you guys are getting all the love, man. Look at you got all these little emojis popping up on the
Right.
screen. For months, these folks have been going, when are you going to have Order Counter? When are you going to sign an agreement? When will they officially be a partner? Well, today's the day. Today's the day. You asked and we delivered. So let's kick it off and let's talk about Order Counter. For those who may not exactly know who Order Counter is, let's define it. So Ashley and Matt, what is Order Counter and why should our agents get excited about it?
Thanks, Scott. So I'll get us started and then I'll pivot to Matt here in a few minutes. But we are super thrilled for the partnership with you guys, and we've been anxiously awaiting this moment as well. We're actually dialing in today from Pensacola, Florida at our partner conference with over 200 of our partners here on site. So you might be able to see the beach in the background a little bit. That's the only time we've seen it this week. But Order Counter, so we have been around now for since 2007. Order Counter is based in Pensacola, Florida. We sell exclusively through channel partners. Uh, our CEO and co-founder, Thomas Barano and Scott Dickens, still work in the business every day. They started the company back in 2007. They were out selling credit card processing and thought, well, gosh, we need a good point of sale company. And so they did not stumble across a good one, so they built their own. And like any good software company, it was built in their garage. And here we are today, growing at a healthy pace for sure. We are a hybrid point of sale company. So we're both cloud-based and server-based. We also are payment agnostic. So we do software really, really well. And then we leave it up to you guys to figure out who to do the payments through.
All right. And Ashley, since you mentioned the fact that you are hybrid, just so that we can, not so much that we need to define it as far as being cloud-based and server-based, but real quick, what are the benefits of having that hybrid solution where it is cloud-based and server-based? What would you say?
Yeah. So if you're, if your merchant goes offline, they can still do business because it is both cloud and server based. And then also from a data privacy standpoint, they own the data for their business. So we're not out selling that to third-party companies that can lead to competition for your business. Matt, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I mean, a hybrid point of sale is quite literally the most reliable way to have a point of sale system by utilizing known technology and then merging in the new technology that's coming out in the cloud space and getting the best of both worlds. Very often, these cloud-based companies are going to derive and take away from your reliability on site because there's just no data on site. And so I think that's, I mean, really a succinct way to put it.
One of the things that I also want to get out there too, because I thought this was interesting when we first started working on this session that we're doing together. It's amazing. Like over the months, I've always heard folks, hey, is it iOS based? Is it Android based? But then when I met with the two of you, I said, so what's the operating system? And look at that. It's Windows based. Let's talk about that for a little bit. So, what are the benefits of having a Windows based system versus iOS or Android?
Yeah.
Well, Windows-based systems have been around for quite a while. It is one of the most known quantities in the technology world right now for uh, technology to build your software onto. So that being said, we have a huge amount of understanding and support when it comes to actually building our software onto it. And Android and iOS based, to a large degree, I mean, they are coming along and they're moving at a quick pace. But Windows based has just kind of always been the rock in the software industry for the most part. So that's why we really started with that and continue to build on it.
Probably one of the bigger things that always sticks out to me too is that if you stop and you think about the inception of Windows in and itself as an operating system, I mean, it was always primarily built for kind of that business education type mindset to begin with, anyways, albeit Word, Excel, things that kind of generate that productivity. So, I mean, that kind of ties into the business platform as far as the POS system being Windows based, correct?
100%. Yeah. The Windows software is arguably one of the most business oriented softwares as well. Android and iOS, Android probably more than iOS, I would say, is really starting to get their kind of business footings on and making things easy for companies like us that need, easy support. I'm sure lots of you guys are used to having Windows at home on a computer potentially, and you see all those things like Windows updates and stuff. The great thing about Windows, they actually have a whole separate branch of the software for companies like us called Windows LTSC. And that's what we primarily use. And it simplifies the product down to a very easy and malleable software that we put our order counter on. So.
Yeah. And Matt, this was something that you had shared with me, and it was something I didn't actually think about when it comes to like that Windows ecosystem. At least Windows gives you the courtesy of letting you know when they're going to sunset something in the future,
Oh, yeah.
as opposed to iOS or Android, where they're like, no, we don't do that anymore. And you're like, well, but I used you yesterday. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, that's a pretty good benefit of having a Windows-based POS, correct? Is the fact that you're kind of in the know when stuff's going to be sunset and everything else?
Consistency is key. I got to tell you, I know a lot of you guys probably have iOS, Android or iPhones and such, and there was just an update that just came out, and it was kind of required. These phones kind of update themselves. The beauty of Windows LTSC is that, yeah, we know exactly when it's going to be sunset. Right now, Windows LTSC on Windows 10 is going to be 2027, so we already know the day that we have to actually start migrating people over, and we can plan literally years in advance on this. And on top of this too, they make the transition plans as well. I mean, historically, Windows is a great software to transition from version to version as well, and they've made that extraordinarily easy too.
Yeah, and we're not going to have that conversation about the new iOS update. I'm still learning it, and
I
we'll have that
know, me too.
conversation.
It
Yeah.
put me in a tizzy this week.
Oh my God! All of my buttons have like a little jelly feel.
It
Wow,
does.
way to go, Apple. So let's continue on about this in regards to, Windows-based system. But I mean, for all of our friends that are joining on the call today, they're like, hey, order counter POS sounds pretty cool so far. And by the way, agents, don't forget, we want your questions. You can start putting them in the chat and know that probably within the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to allow you to come off mute so you can ask our questions to the guest. So let's start with back out there. So let's talk about what Order Counter can do. So who is Order Counter built for? Is it for hospitality only? Is it for retail only? So who are you built for, and what do you say? What would you say are some of your strengths?
Yeah, so we are mostly hospitality focused. That's the core of our product, right? So we are geared towards any type of restaurant that you can think of, whether it's a food truck, fine dining, quick service. We have some that are kiosk only. Any type of restaurant. We also do specialty markets too, like we do pizza shops really well. We also do meat markets and fish markets and delis and ice cream shops and places that might have weight embedded needs and things like that. So those are all core components to our business. And then we also do some retail on the smaller scale. When you're thinking about specialty shops like liquor stores or vape shops or small locations, maybe ethnic grocery stores even.
Yeah. So this is the part where I'm gonna kind of nerd out a little bit, if that's cool with the two of you. Can I nerd out for just a little
Yes,
bit?
please.
Oh, by all means.
It's his favorite.
Okay. Because this was the part that excited me when we met prior to this session today. We were talking about the features, the benefits, what order counter can bring to the table. So this is the part where Matt and Ashley, I'm not going to talk to you just yet, but I'm going to talk to you, the sales agent. Listen to this. Okay, we're coming up on the month of October, and if you're working with a meat market, or you're working with a business that does catering, or you're working with a restaurant that does catering, or even with Thanksgiving coming up, think about some of those small mom and pop retail businesses, or some of those small restaurants that kind of do those Thanksgiving platters and everything else. Order Counter does future ordering. Matt and Ashley, talk to us about that.
Yeah, so our future ordering is really easy to do from the front of house, which is actually one of the key things for some of these mom and pop businesses. They're just getting phone calls, and it's Judy Blue, and she's saying, "Hey, I need 20 pies for next Sunday's church party or so," and making sure that not only is it easy on the entry, but that doesn't get lost in the week's worth of business that's in between there. And the restaurant is going to know on Friday before, hey, I need 20 pies for Sunday. Maybe I should order some additional pie, pie tins or some additional filling and things like that. So not only just on the front end, but the back end is extraordinarily important, which we have multiple ways to notify that business owner of what's coming down the pipe. So one, they're prepared. And on top of that, we really help them stay on top of the business for them, because I mean, I'm sure everybody knows in the restaurant industry, they are usually going 15 different ways to Sunday. And, Lord help you if you have a 16th way coming down the pipe. So.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I really wanted to get in front of this, and once again, this is me talking to you, the sales agent, stop and think about it, okay? Next week is the month of October, and if you're starting to deal with some of these businesses that take a lot of these orders for Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and it looks like you have an opportunity to win the business, but maybe they're not too happy with their point of sale system, just go ahead, qualify them, ask the question. All right, so for all of those catering orders that you're taking, what does the process look like? That's the question you're going to ask them. What does that process look like? And if it sounds cumbersome, if it sounds time consuming, then you can say, man, oh man, if you want to move forward with Pay Compass, have I got a solution for you? Let me set up a demo with our friends over at Order Counter, because you have got to see the solution. It is going to manage everything as far as all of those orders go. So I just wanted to make sure that I put it out there, because man, oh man, this is the season to get the right technology in place to help keep those businesses on track. And look at that, you're going to look like the hero. So you mentioned some of the retail opportunities. You talked about vape stores, liquor stores, ethnic grocery stores, supported by single, small chain operations. You have the ability to do EBT as well, correct?
Yeah, we sure do. We have EBT that's specifically supported through DataCap on our side from there. It's an EBT flagging system, so it's just something that you have to go and manually add in that there is going to be a EBT item on the setup side. And then after that, it's always going to be identified as an EBT enabled item from there, and will be able to be transacted as such.
Yeah, and I already know the question that's in the back of every sales agent head right now. Okay, and let's just get it out in the open. Does Order Counter do cash discounting? Does it do dual pricing? Does it do surcharging? Where are we at with that, friends? Where are we at?
We're compliant for all three, so we do all the things.
Look at that, Ashley. You got the heavy metal horns. That was the right answer. Thank you. um, so a couple of other pieces too. We just recently had a good opportunity with Order Counter, probably about, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago or so. We had an agent that came to us with an opportunity with multiple locations, but the biggest requirement was that several of the locations had drive-through capabilities. And I got to tell you, from a solutioning standpoint, we were kind of scratching our heads trying to think of a good POS solution that could manage drive-throughs successfully. But lo and behold, we gave the two of you a call and we had a really great meeting. Would you mind just kind of talking about the benefits of having Order Counter for drive-through service?
No, yeah. Well, drive-through service usually comes with the caveat that it has quick service in the front as well. So you really need to do both
Yes.
extraordinarily well. The main thing that a drive-through is going to really need is the kitchen. Things have to move quick. You have to have a great kitchen display system to really be the center of that kind of business. So we have a great KDS program that can do things like all-day screens. It can do multiple bumped items and have chain bumping from there. You can set up expo screens so that you can make sure you keep track of what is actually finishing up. And if something isn't finished, you can see exactly what that is, so you can go chase it down in the actual kitchen and make sure that you're really pushing food out rather than just waiting on food. That also being said too, I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with like the whole Chick-fil-A style drive-through from there, where they're going to be doing the ordering and the paying on the outside of the actual building itself. That's something that we can do with our handhelds. So our handheld order tab product is something that can handle quick service. It can handle table service, and we're currently releasing it for bar tabs here fairly shortly as well. But yeah, having a small little cell phone size device handheld on the outside that you can do a full drive-through order, note it down, and then pay for it right when you're standing on the side of that car, and then the order is received inside the kitchen. It really helps, again, push people through those drive-throughs. The name of the game with drive-through is just keeping that line short. So anything that gets people flowing through faster is going to be great.
So I do have to say that, calling on the two of you at that point in time a few weeks ago, it was like, oh, dear Lord Jesus, you are a good man. Thank you for allowing Order Counter to meet with these folks. One of the other things that I want to tie into, and I think it's interesting because it ties into a question that I see Tom Bridges put into the chat. Tom's question or Tom's statement is, could you talk about how your scales work? So Tom, we're actually going to address that right now because this is my next leading question. One of the other things that we talked about is the fact that how Order Counter can manage things that are weight. As an example, I think the example that the two of you gave, those barbecue places where they do everything by the half pound or the pound. So let's dive into that a little bit. Let's talk about how Order Counter can manage everything from a weight perspective and what it is that you can bring to the table.
Yeah, right. I mean, so starting really from the front counter, I mean, you got to be able to weigh things so that you know how to price them, and the customer is going to ring them up. So from the point of sale side, we could either have just a dummy scale and you're typing in a weight. You could have a scale that is plugging into the point of sale system where you drop something on top of the scale. Let's say I had 3 pounds of cheese. I dropped 3 pounds on the scale. It's actually 3.2 pounds. And then I hit a button on order counter and it grabs the weight automatically from the scale and weighs that item. And then there's probably the most efficient out of all of that, which is weight or price embedded barcodes and getting them to integrate with our point of sale system as well. And we can work with really any scale that has a price or weight embedded barcode, namely because our system has a configurable barcode reader that we can tell it exactly how many digits and what those digits mean. So I have not met yet a price embedded or weight embedded barcode that we can't work with. So that's just on the front side of things. Then there's the inventory side. So that's where yield percentages are going to be coming in. If I order a rack of ribs and I have to shave down 10 pounds of fat off of a 50-pound rack of ribs, then, again, I want to know what that percentage loss is and make sure that that remains consistent over time. That's going to tell me quality from my suppliers, potentially, possible staffing issues with the people that I hire, not being able to trim as efficiently as maybe someone who's more senior on my staff. And keeping track of those things really, again, help. When you watch the details, the bigger picture sometimes figures itself out from there. So, and again, giving the restaurants the tools to do that, it's a great way to add value.
All right. One of the things that I just gravitated towards, and I wrote it down very quickly to make sure that I didn't forget. So you're telling me from an inventory management perspective, you can actually manage waste as far as, receive X amount of product, whether it's chicken or so you can do that as well too, as far as the actual food costing goes, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people if you really wanted to count the pickles on your hamburgers, you certainly could. Now, whether that's a great idea or not for the average restaurant, I will have a healthy debate with anybody on that. However, with the inventory side, yeah, we can do everything from the baseline item and then up to including the modifiers that go onto that with how it actually changes the inventory from there. So that's all stuff that we can track by all sorts of weight metrics. And honestly, I mean, I don't know if you guys ever worked in a kitchen, but sometimes there are a little bit of weird metrics that they go by. They say, yep, that's a bucket of chicken and that serves about 30 people. So you can actually make your own custom measurement units that are in there as well. So
Yeah, and I see that we got another comment. So let's just kind of stay on track here as far as scales, weights, and everything else. Got another comment that popped up into the chat. Sounds good for butchers who use weight and barcodes. So why don't we talk about some of those opportunities, some of those butcher shops and meat shops that you're working with?
yeah, seafood markets fit right into that as well.
Oh, there we go. Is this another one? Go
I
ahead.
was going to say, I mean, they all these places that are selling things, I mean, places that are selling bulk deli meats as well. And oftentimes these places are sandwich shops too. So not only are they delis and meat markets, but they also are selling, they're doing quick service on the side. And when you have these multiple concepts blending together, you need a software that's, again, really widespread and knows how to do all these individual things and then make them jive together as well.
Yeah, look at
And
that.
yeah,
We got
candy, nuts, and salad bars, yogurt shops as well. Specifically those kind of places, candy, nuts, salad bars, and yogurt shops, they really like those integrated scales that sit next to the point of sale system where you can just take it. It has a tare weight that removes the container weights off of it from there. And then whatever is weighed at that point is appropriately priced out based on a button click.
Can I just say the level of energy in the chat with the fact that we're kind of doing theater of the mind and people are going, oh my God, I just thought of another opportunity that they're not talking about. I got to type it in the chat. This is great. Thank you guys. Keep it up. One of the things I want to tie into very quickly, and Matt, it kind of ties into something that you said about integrating with scales. Because this is a common question that does come from our agents from time to time. They're dealing with a restaurant, they're dealing with a retail location, to which the question always comes about, well, can we reuse some of their equipment? Why don't you talk us through that as far as where Order Counter stands with repurposing equipment, using existing ancillary equipment that ties into the POS? Where is Order Counter at with that, my man?
Yeah, so I mean, with reusing equipment, I always have 2 points that I like to make. The very first point that I love to make is that old POS, old problems. If you're using old equipment, again, and it had issues before, do not be surprised if those issues persist. Very oftentimes there will be hardware or possible networking issues that may pervade through that. That being said, though, we are all about trying to save these merchants money. Like we are not trying to again, make additional money just based off of hardware sales from there. We really want to provide this as low cost as possible to make these deals as easy as possible to get over the line. So from that perspective, we really are all for it. That being said, when you guys have to do this, there is a lot of varied and different equipment that people can use. I mean, from scales to just point of sale computers to printers to cash drawers, and they all have their own tiny little quirks and little bits of pieces that you have to know. The great news is that I know pretty much most of that stuff, and you guys can always reach out to me as a resource to see what you can and cannot reuse. There's very likely going to be some questions, and getting into the details is probably going to be a whole, again, based on all the things that can happen with those, it could be a whole hour-long talk. So we'll leave those to the details if you guys need me to answer that. But please utilize me as a resource for you.
And I do want to capitalize on something that you said. It is important to know that, can we repurpose existing equipment? Yeah, obviously we can take a look at it. But to your point, Matt, you were saying, old equipment, old problems. That's where sometimes things get a little bit sticky because, if we're utilizing their previous equipment, well, we don't have the warranty on that. You know what I mean? So sometimes those are some of the things to take into consideration. Sometimes it's not the worst thing in the world to actually just start the whole thing brand new from scratch and just kind of going from there because nothing feels better than using stuff that's brand new. We keep getting more questions into the chat. Let's keep throwing these out there to you. Got another question in the chat. With restaurants that have language barriers, as an example, a Mexican restaurant, can the orders be sent to the kitchen in the Spanish language?
Yeah, so we actually have a thing specifically called alternate name on all items. So when you go into Order Counter, there's a base level name that is going to show on front of house as well as on printed receipts. Alternate name is specifically for what ends up in the kitchen. So if you don't fill in that field, you're going to be using the normal name that's on there, but alternate name, anything that can be, any language that can be communicated with a US English keyboard is easy to, again, put and type whatever you need in there so that it ends up in the kitchen and whatever kind of description that you want. And this isn't even just limited to languages. This could be actually shorthand. You know, I've had plenty of restaurants that they say, "Hey, I don't need it to say mustard. I just need it to say M because that's what we know." And it's just, you know, and it's like, all right, we can do it. You know, that's not a big deal.
I was waiting for you to say it just needs to say must.
It could. Honestly, the world is the merchant's oyster for in that particular instance. And also one more point about the previous conversation that I did want to end with. The most important thing with talking about reusing equipment is setting expectations. You know, again, those expectation settings not only are extraordinarily important previously when you're leading up to whether or not we can utilize that hardware from there, conversation may not go positively, or just setting expectations that, hey, you have a 7-year-old printer, my friend, that may go out next week. So it's
Yeah. No, definitely a challenge. We do have a couple more questions. And agents, I'm going to throw this out there to you right now. So let's get through a couple more questions here. And then I want you to start coming off mute and I want you to start asking you questions to our guests. I promise they don't bite. They're really good people. One of the questions that was thrown in the chat, iPads. So I'm safely assuming that our agent is talking about uh, order at the table, anything along those lines. Where does order counter stand with that?
well, iPads, and I will try to tame my opinion just a little bit. I tend to have very, you know, I'm sure if you guys get me in a demo, you will probably hear a little bit more, but iPads were never really designed to be working within a business, is my firm opinion. And on top of that, they have extremely limited capabilities for remote support, which is something that we're very big on, and we do with our stuff. That being said, there are ways in very drastic circumstances that we can make them and utilize them, but by the majority of the account, we are not going to be really reusing iPads or utilizing them for any major business functions. Perhaps, and I mean, just to give one example of something that I've previously done, I had a manager that just really wanted to have a tablet that was with him and that he can go and see orders, click and open things from there. That was one small circumstance that we could reuse an iPad, but the base of the system, the majority of the system was set up on our normal setup, which is Windows based with possible Android add-ons.
Okay, so on the off chance that it's a Windows-based tablet, would you be able to set up your software on that type of a tablet at all?
Yeah, Windows tablets are much easier. I just to elaborate a little bit further on the iPad situation, when you remote into that, you can only see one frame per, I think it's like 10 seconds or so from a remote support standpoint, which is really the thing that limits us so greatly with it. Windows has no such kind of limitations. And honestly, even Android tablets to a large degree do not have those limitations either. So they're far more easy for me to utilize. And now that being said, full size tablets, while great and they are fairly large, again, I come from a service background myself. I was always taught and maybe even yelled at a couple of times that it was full hands in, full hands out of the kitchen, you know, which meant you're always, if you're walking through the kitchen doors, you're taking food out. If you're walking back in, you're taking plates in. If you have a tablet that is so large that it's taking away one of your hands, what did you just lose? Well, half of your ability as a server effectively. That's why we really actually lean towards more handheld units. The PAX A77 would be probably the best example of a cell phone size unit that can go right in your pocket where you have your hands back. So, you know, these practical applications and such are great things to have conversations with because really these are the things that turn you from the salesperson into the consultant. And which is really where you want to be, you know, in the process with consulting somebody on these kind of solutions, you know, from there.
All right, and the questions keep on coming in the chat, so let's keep throwing them out there to the two of you. Uh, could one of you elaborate upon bar tabs, how Order Counter manages bar tabs?
Yeah, so bar tabs, we have lots of different things. I mean, there are almost too many things to talk about bar tabs because there's so many cool features that we have. I'm going to just give you all a couple. So one of the main power features that we have with that is the ability to do pre-authorizations with bar tabs. So with those pre-authorizations, the big one that I really like is our incremental authorization settings. If you ever walked into a bar, an easy question to ask that bar owner or even the bar manager is, hey, have you ever had a pre-auth go throughout the night, and then by the end of the night, that guy drinks $300 worth of drinks. He got carried out in a stretcher, and then you try to close his tab, and it says that it failed because he only had $40 on his card and you only pre-auth for 25. So in those kind of cases, incremental auth is consistently checking that tab throughout the night as you're increasing the dollar amount on it, and it's verifying that the funds are actually there. So those situations do not occur, and in a large majority of bars, this is a major issue. From there.
And by the way, that scenario with the $300 bar tab, that was me at Wausau, but we won't talk about that.
Okay. Here.
Do we have a question?
I believe someone's talking to their dog, I think. It seems the dog's in trouble too, unfortunately.
Okay. So let's throw a couple more out here.
Talking to Scott.
They were telling me to heal. That's what it was. Do you have any examples of businesses that you're currently working with that have drive-throughs?
So this is going to dive into a much broader topic, unfortunately, because I can't give a direct answer to that, mainly because we are an extraordinarily data private company. We work with lots of partners. Again, we kind of understand that you guys as reps and everything like that, our partners may not be exactly, your best friend. They may even be your competitors. So taking any data that we have on our partners, the merchants that they have, or any of that stuff, we don't actually circulate that information.
But we
around.
do have drive-through customers.
Oh, we certainly do. I mean, we have easily, hundreds of drive-through customers from there. Yes.
All right. How competitive is your solution for food trucks? Is it too sophisticated, aka too expensive?
A little bit more of a complicated question. I do think that it fits the bill for food trucks that are doing, a consistent amount of business over the week. If you have somebody that is more of like, let's say I have a coffee truck or a coffee pull behind, and I maybe work 3 days out of the week and the volume isn't really there, we may be a solution that is a little bit priced out. From that kind of case, it usually is a price conversation at that point. I don't think we can make our product extraordinarily simple and basic and easy for somebody to utilize for a food truck example. And honestly, we have a lot of cool technology to really enhance those businesses as well, where they're looking for it. QR ordering is a great example. I always tell people, QR ordering, I mean, it is the best kiosk that you could ever have. 100 people can scan that QR code and order all at the same time. And guess what? It's not going to cry a little bit. Whereas a kiosk, for example, the throughput is just the person standing in front of it. So
yeah,
and you're right, it is extraordinarily pricey for kiosks.
It is, absolutely. So in the interest of time, we're just going to do rapid fire on a couple more of these questions. Matt, to be clear, are you going to kind of give like a really quick demo of the application today?
Yeah, I definitely can. I was going to say we have lots of whatever you think is better, Scott, for the entirety of this. If answering questions is going to be the best thing, I can go through a quick demo and show some software side though. You just let me know when you want me to pop into doing that.
All right, let's do a couple rapid fire, and then I'll give you time so that you can prep and pull up your screen, and you can just kind of do a little show and tell with our folks here. The question in the chat, it says, I've got an Android tablet. Can that work? Safe to assume that's going to be based upon what type of Android in the operating system, correct?
Yeah, correct. There's going to be some details to flow through. Just to be clear, though, so at the base and core of the system, there will have to be at least a Windows operating system that is producing and running order counter at that point. That is the base of the system, if you will, and then we can add on those Android tablets from there.
Excellent. Question in the chat: does order counter have the ability to do offline mode?
We sure do. We so through both DataCap and PAX, we do have a store and forward offline mode from there. Obviously, this should probably be the plan Z for the offline situation with a business. It's kind of the last case scenario of making sure that they can keep up and running. Things like failover routers are better solutions for making sure that happens. But when needed, they are lifesavers to make sure that businesses don't have to close and stop their run operations of the business. But yes, and it's very easy to implement to turn on. It is 2 button clicks to turn on the offline mode, and it turns on across the entire system.
Another question in the chat: do you have a 5G option as far as cellular goes?
So we don't offer the 5G options, and for a very simple reason. We're a national company. Sometimes, AT&T may not be the best in your area, and if we send you an AT&T chip that's inside of it, you may be a little bit upset. So we tend to leave that more towards the rep, to the merchant, to somebody even outside technical analysis, because again, a lot of these solutions do require somebody to do have a little bit of know-how on the local area to make sure that these solutions land cleanly from there.
All right, so primarily we're talking about Ethernet and Wi-Fi then, correct? That's probably going to be the best option for all of our folks.
Ethernet and Wi-Fi, and yeah, I see the additional things. So does it have a SIM card spot? Not our POS terminals from there. However, there are devices that you can put on the network that give it the same capability. Again, those failover routers do have that same capability. And also we do have some devices like, again, those PAX A77s that I was talking about, they actually do have SIM card inserts. So again, it's very depending on the solution. In general, we can create a entire solution for a merchant that does include some failover for using SIM cards and cell cards.
Excellent. All right, tell you what, Matt, why don't you start to prep so that you can just kind of show the solution to our audience here. Agents, I'm going to throw it off to you right now. Okay, come off mute, get your question out there to our two guests, Ashley and Matt. Let's hear from you. Just come right off mute, please. You know you're doing a great job when there's stunned silence. Do you see that?
So, not that I would do this, but I just got to ask the question.
Go ahead.
Is it, if we see one out in the field and they're not happy with the processor, can we move that order counter to Pay Compass? Like if it's, I don't know where else, where it'd be, but obviously we have other dealers throughout the country.
So one
How
of
does
the
that work?
things, yeah, no, that's a great question. So one of the things that we take very seriously is our partnership with our partners first. So when it comes to a partner that already has the processing and order counter at the same restaurant, that is not something that we would allow the switch over for. We would always reach out to our partner if that merchant's not happy. And then, if the two of you wanted to work together, that would be up to you. But for us, we don't allow that. We, would even go to the extreme of losing the customer if we had to, or the merchant if we had to protect the partnership.
Love
So
it.
it's protecting you as the partner.
That's what I was making sure of. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Justin. Matt, tell you what, before you kick it off here, Ashley, let me kick this over to you. So there's more to order counter than just a POS system. You, order counter, are bringing a wide variety of solutions. So let's talk this through very quickly so our agents have an understanding. You can help our merchants with everything from online ordering, gift cards, loyalty. That's part of the order counter solution, correct, Ashley?
Correct. Those are all options within our solution for merchants to take advantage of. And we're also introducing some new integrations as well that our merchants and partners can access as well.
Okay. So just wanted to put that out there, friends. It's not just a POS system. I'm telling you, order counter, these guys take care of everything. Matt, I'll tell you what, my man, I can see your screen right over here. Safe to assume you're going to log in. Why don't you do it on a very high level? Show our audience some of the cool stuff that order counter can do.
Yeah, by all means. So, well, welcome to my demo unit. First of all, this is, I'm going to show you through just a little bit of the things that we do front of house wise is going to be the cool things that we do. So signing into the point of sale terminal from here, we do table service. You can see I have takeout, delivery, bar tabs for here, to go, and drive through. All of the flow of the point of sale system is something that we can adjust. But let me just hop into a quick table here, and let's just do a couple orders effectively and show you some of the modifiers and things of that nature of how the operation of the system works. First, that you can kind of see, images are something that we can integrate right into the point of sale system. It being a Windows-based system, it's quite literally as easy as going online, finding a picture that you want, saving it, and putting in the point of sale system. So you can make the point of sale system really look however pretty you want. And on the converse side, however ugly you want. Some merchants, I sometimes question what they've put on. So, but beyond that, the normal way that these buttons look, you can see just clean text, a little bit of color that are on there. Now, that being said, one of my more favorite modifier types from here that really just kind of gives a little bit of a wow factor for how easy our point of sale system is where we put the modifiers on the same page as the item. And I can't stress enough how limiting clicks and limiting screen swaps are really what every single restaurant is after. Every little piece that you can shave off from the utility or use of the point of sale system is going to be a happier merchant and a more longevity for a merchant from there. So here you can see on the left in these little blue, on the little blue slots on the top left, those are my different sandwiches. And on the right, here's all of my different modifiers that could go on the sandwich. So, you know, let's say I just hired an employee, he's 15 and maybe not even paying attention. And someone asked him, hey, what's on a BLT sub? And he was unfortunately forgetting. So I select my BLT sub here, and you can see on my screen how those check marks are going to pop up and remind me. Now, I would usually tell a restaurant owner, God help you if you have an employee that doesn't know what's in a BLT sub. But the great thing is our system can actually let them know exactly what it is with some very clear marks. And on top of this too, it really doubles up for training on the point of sale system too. Lots of restaurants have complex food, or maybe something comes on a certain platter that maybe someone just needs to be taught and it's not particularly written on a menu. Adding and removing things, also extraordinarily easy. Just, you know, I don't want any mayo, click the check mark, it removes it from there. I'm a person, I love doubling up my bacon. It's my favorite thing to do. I'm sure it will catch up with me one day. We can also program these things for multiples. And again, when you show somebody how easy this is, it really opens them up for the continuing of the demo. It's actually one of the very first things that I love to show from here. Now, that being said, some other cool features that we have would be just, again, the ease of splitting a check. So here in the top left, you guys can see my seat numbers here. So I'm just going to go and make a quick foretop. I'm going to show you how easy a nightmare scenario for any server is, where everybody says, oh yeah, we need separate checks after the fact, you know, on the end of the dinner. So seat 1, they have our BLT sub. Seat 2, we're going to get a nice juicy steak here. We're going to do a New York strip with a baked potato and some broccoli, try to keep a little bit healthy. And of course, we're going to do medium rare. Seat 3, this is going to be our town drunk. He's unfortunately going to be drinking up pretty much every single type of beer that I have here, and maybe even some whiskey. So if I go in my whiskey section, you know, Gentleman Jack, I'm familiar with that one. So we'll order that. And seat 4, they're just going to be a very basic appetizer from there. So I'm going to go in here and order, I guess, some cheese sticks from here. So now, once I have my order placed, I have seat 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is still technically one check. I can hit the manage button here in the top left, and you can see this is on a single check. We're now in our check splitting screen. And it's as simple as I can grab individual items and move these off to a separate check. Or since I put in all that work to make sure I use my seat numbers like a good server would, I can just hit the split by seat button, and this will auto split from here. I can hit the print all button here in the bottom left, and I now will have numbered checks that I can go bring to the table. And when I bring them back to the screen, let's just say it took them 20 minutes to get me the card for these, figure out their payments. We can put a barcode on the bottom of each of these receipts that auto generates, so that when I come back into the point of sale system from the sign off screen, all that I need to do to recall that check is sign back in, hit the pending button, and scan my check from there. I don't have to go searching. I don't have to remember a table number. I don't have to look through the order of my checks to see whose I have first. It is quite literally scan, and then it's pay from there once you get to the pending screen. Now, so those are two cool things that I really like front of house wise for the ordering and just really, for lack of a better word, the employee feel of things. Manager functions, super easy to manage order counter from here. So we're going to jump into our control panel in the top right. I could tell you personally, I was a manager when I was 19, probably the worst manager that you ever saw. However, one annoyance that I had was that my employees at any time of the day, they would walk up to me and they would say, Matt, it's, you know, I know it's 12:44, but I was actually here at 12:30. Now I have to put a mental note, write something down, tell them to put something on my desk that I have to deal at the end of the night when I'm just trying to leave and I don't want to deal with it. Having a simple little thing here where you can do a punch adjustment on the front of house is just, again, a manager's lifesaver. And these tiny little details that make their life easy that they don't really have access to, or maybe they do have access to, and nobody even spent the time to show them, which is, again, I can't say enough how much some of my competition just glazes over the details that make people's lives easy, is super important from there. Managing the menu, you can do menu management from front of house as well as back of house with us too. So if I needed to change a price on the fly, I see that my menu priced steak is $10 less than it should have because steak has just gone up this week. I can go into menu management, menu items in here, and then I can click on my turf screen and here are my steaks. And now I can just select into them and then change a price from here. Right on here. As you guys can see, and I'm not going to stay on the screen for too long, there are so many settings, tons and tons of different flexibility that we have on here. You guys are obviously going to leave that up to the experts from there, but this should be just a little tidbit into the sheer amount of settings that we have to make your merchants happy from there. And last but not least, that I plan to show you here is going to be our back office that I already had up on this. So when I pop into my back office, you can notice that this is actually just a website from here. Now, this website is effectively the part of the hybrid system that is going to be the cloud-based side. And I always like showing this a little bit and then talking about that hybrid system. So the local front of house point of sale software, that is storing the data locally. This website, the key thing to understand is this website is literally produced from the same exact computer that is storing the data inside the restaurant. And this is important because since that computer is doing double duty, producing the in-store point of sale, as well as producing the online website, there is no ability for these things to ever come out of congruence. They will always say the same thing because they're pulling their data from the same place, which again is another common issue that you may see, not only with cloud-based systems, but other systems that store data locally that tried to do the whole cloud conversion, tried to do this hybrid technology, and they really failed by doing so by storing data in multiple places or from there. And lots of front of house and back of house features. And I'm sure I don't want to go over on time, by any means. So Scott, grab the cane and pull me off the stage whenever you want, because I'll go for literally 3 hours if you guys need. From here though, just to show you, like I was saying, the menu management aspect of it, if I go into menu and then menu items, you'll see that the actual screen, and let's hop into my turf screen here. So it's 1-to-1. So, and you can see this was the same thing that I was showing in the point of sale system. So not only is it easy to see exactly what the point of sale system is going to be doing, but when a manager goes home at night and they need to build, Valentine's Day menu from there, they don't need to stay inside the business to know exactly if they put the buttons in the right place or something of the sort. It just mirrors it on the screen so that they really can manage their menu and organize their menu. And when they come in on Valentine's Day, oftentimes they're doing this the day before, the point of sale system actually looks the way they need. But other than that, that's a very generalized sense of just a couple of cool things that we have. There's tons of reporting that we have on the dashboard or further on into the data mining. You can see that we have hyperlinks on a lot of this stuff as well. So drilling down into data, very easy. Again, managers, a couple of questions that they're usually asking or should be asking daily, weekly, monthly: how many comps, how many promotions, how many voids have I done? And keeping track of those numbers and getting a feel or a pulse of the business and making sure they stay in check, for lack of a better word. These are all places where they can very easily make sure that they're not going into red flag territory.
And Matt, very quickly, since you said the word reporting, and I'm just kind of looking at my notes over here from the last time that we met, talking about the scheduled orders report. So the consolidates the future orders that are going to be coming up that I alluded to at the very beginning of this call. And it looks like you also have automated chef reminders, printing in advance for that order management. High level overview. Could you just kind of cover that very quickly?
Yeah, so with the high level overview from there, I'll pull up one of these reports as well while we're just going through this. so that you guys can, if I have any data that's on here, I'm not too sure if there's going to be any data on my demo unit from here. That being said, these reports that we can go here in the top left, there is an email PDF button. So we have reports that do a consolidated item report for these schedule items. So think again, I am ordering 100 BLT sandwiches for Saturday. So rather than seeing the word BLT listed out 100 times on effectively a kitchen ticket, or have 100 kitchen tickets print that say that, it'll actually consolidate down to 100x BLT. So effectively giving you a pack list. These delis, meat markets, seafood markets, their employees come in extremely early and they want to know what they're doing from there. What am I setting up for the day? What am I pre-packing for the day? So having these emails go out from there, where you can go and make sure that an email goes out that says, hey, you guys can get started at 5 a.m. on the 200 steaks, if you have to have 200 fillets because they're pre-ordered, get them going from there. And then we have further reports that go out that can show exactly where those orders break down to. So if I had 100 orders of steaks and it breaks down into 10 separate bags that people are going to be picking up, then we can make a pick list from there. So that person that has to fill those bags with the appropriate orders, they then have an emailed list that goes from there. And then of course, the good old, we can just make this stuff print out of the kitchen printer really whenever you want. If your employees get in at 5 a.m. at 4:45, we can just print out all the orders that were previously scheduled for today. And just to show you a little bit of the scheduled orders, every one of our reports have this ability. But you can go in here and click this schedule report button, and you can just set it to once a day, once a week, bi-weekly, or monthly, and choosing whatever time frame that you'd like. So if I want this to be sent once a week every Monday, I can choose that and give it time and as many emails as I need it to.
And Matt, very quickly, and just because I think it was something I saw very quickly on the screen, but I want to make sure that I am clear on this too, because I'm sure some other folks may have seen it as well. On that reporting section, there was like a drop-down menu where it showed reports for last year. So can I safely assume that it can show me as a business owner how many Thanksgiving platters I made last year, or things along those lines?
Yeah, it definitely can. I mean, and specifically to answer that specific thing that you need, that would be under our menu reports and under our item performance report. This report
Yeah.
will tell you exactly how many things were ordered in whatever time frame that you'd like. So you can see when I run this, it tells me that I sold 14 Budweisers over the time frame that I have, which is basically for the last week. But yeah, you can go and select any of our preset time frames from here, or you can just go and custom set your actual time frames from there. And yeah, lots of reports too will be exportable by CSV. Like you can see this report for all of our different items and how many were ordered. I have a little button here that I can click to export to CSV. So if there's anything that someone wants to do to manipulate this data, put it into their own spreadsheets that they then forward up to ownership, for example, it's very easy to do.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. And for the most part, you, sales agent, just want to remind you, we're just scratching the surface with everything that Order Counter can do. We covered a lot of content today with everything from hospitality to retail. So some of the benefits with future ordering, the fact that they can do loyalty and online ordering. I mean, this is a robust solution. And truth be told, for those of you that know John Marshall and I very, very well, we were all giggling when Matt showed us this earlier this week. So, tell you what, I see that we've got about 6 minutes left, Matt. I know that you've got to get back to your conference. I want to be respectful of your time, and I do want to say thank you for making time for us. We've got more questions coming up in the chat. Matt, would you mind? We'll just throw a few
I was
more
going to
at
say
you.
I'll speed round this as best as I can from here. So I'll start from bottom to top. From here. So can it do coursing? Yes, multiple different ways. We can do course a fire-based coursing where you have a course automatically applied to items and then it fires throughout that. You can have a server-based coursing where the server that is ordering the food chooses the time frame in which those orders go through. So think, for example, server orders up that food, they click on their appetizers, send immediately. Click on their entrees, send in 15 minutes. Click on the desserts, send in 50 minutes, for example, so that they don't forget. And obviously these things can be edited from there. Also, the good old-fashioned low-tech course line. I order my apps, I hit the line button, and everything below that's going to be in my entree, or having a pop-up that says entree or app, for example, because obviously there's some foods that kind of occupy both territories, you know, like chicken wings is a great example. Oftentimes an app, oftentimes an entree from there. Let's see. Inventory tracking slash depletion reordering. Depletion reordering, the answer would be no on that. We don't do automated reorders. Our system does not automatically, on the local inventory system, connect in to suppliers from there. We do have integrations that do that though. So you can think, we have a Restaurant 365 integration that has all of those abilities from there. The inventory tracking piece of that question though, yes, we definitely have that. We have a full-blown inventory system built in the system that can do item level tracking as well as modifier level tracking and deplete from there. Let's see. How does it work when owners have multiple locations? Are they able to see all locations under the same screen? We do have an enterprise level screen that allows people to bring up all of their independent back offices or see comparative reports based on regions, different units, or really any kind of mix of ordering or locations from there. So if they want to order it by their states, for example, so I want to see Massachusetts versus my Virginia locations and see, how my sales are doing comparatively. If I want to do, one franchise owner versus another, I could also organize things from that. So it's very customizable on that end. Who builds the menu and how much if you do it? Actually, an excellent question, Steve. I'm going to talk a little bit more broadly about our deployment process. So when you guys start up a deal with us, the way that it starts typically is that you're going to schedule a demo with us. From there, once we go through and do that demo, we're going to be making all those notes from there and making sure that gets down to our actual deployment team. So those things that we talk about on those sales calls, making sure that that information makes it down to, for the things that they want to make sure that's set up. Once that's actually done and you guys are in the deployment process, turnaround times that you can generally say 2 to 3 weeks is a pretty fair estimate right now for our deployment process. If there's a lot of specifics that they need, lots of integrations, and they want to make sure there's lots of different people. 2 to 3 weeks is the average. There are definitely times in which doing it longer makes a lot more sense. A new business is opening and they're going to be opening in 6 weeks, for example. Starting early and making sure that T's are crossed and I's are dotted, never a bad idea. That being said, once you go through that deployment process, we're going to build what we call a skeleton menu. Now, the skeleton menu is called that specifically because we don't see it as the completed menu. Now, that being said, I do have an opinion on this. There is nobody that is not the business owner that can create an actual complete menu. And so effectively, we do the best that we can to fill out as much details as we can from the printed or, honestly, we've received menus written on napkins before. Anything that you guys get to us to make sure we get that initial menu build. And then from there, we transition that into the training process with the merchant. Once the merchant is being trained on how to do it, we're showing them how to add items, how to add modifiers, and we're finishing out that last 10 to 15% of the menu that really needs to be touched up and specified with that owner's touch to make sure it runs specific for their business in the way that they want. Of course, we have multiple different ways of doing this. So there's usually a figuring out process, and we have to encourage the feedback too. So again, going back to the whole setting expectations with you guys through that deployment process, let the owners know, like there's gonna have to be somebody that's involved on their side. Now, that doesn't have to be the owner. That could be a head server. Honestly, could be a server that probably deserves a promotion. Pay them an extra dollar and call them the point of sale expert. There's all sorts of different ways that you can do it, but we need that internal feedback from that restaurant. Otherwise, I can tell you from experience that merchant will have opinions that they feel that it's not made for us, if that makes sense. So we have to address that first on and foremost and make sure it's part of the process, and they're on board with that from the outset. Once we have that menu done, I mean, I got to tell you, once that part is done and they are clicking the buttons, they're seeing it on the screen, and it is really starting to, like, the rubber's meeting the road, we do a quick settings interview. Once we do the settings interview, really it's just getting to decide a date that we're going to be taking out the old and doing the new from there. I'm going to actually go back to, there's two questions that I really want to get to that were just asked. One's really quick, moving Clover gift cards over to you. They will not slide in our system. However, they have the manually printed numbers that are on there. We can very easily do a gift card import from Clover. From there, they just won't slide in the system, but you can manually type those numbers into it. So yes, transitioning gift cards over from Clover, 100% doable. Just need to set that expectation that they will not swipe, because Clover does, and I think they actually have a QR code nowadays on their gift cards more often than not. That being said, always, and again, if there's any kind of variance within these things, maybe they bought their own gift cards and stuff, always just asking me questions and stuff, poking and prodding my brain with there. And the last one, which I think is probably the most important question that we can answer on here, how about winning over Toast? One, I got to tell you guys, winning over Toast is going to be something that really firmly sits in your guys' court to express that kind of want and need from Order Counter and what we have from there. All of our features, I think we punch right at the same level with what Toast does. I think we have better support overall. We have a better technology stack as well. Toast is a very cloud-based system. If the internet goes down on that system, a very funny thing that people, that the Toast support tell people, let's say I have a 5-terminal system, they'll tell you to only use one because their system doesn't cross-communicate amongst multiple terminals. Who wants that? If I wanted a 1-terminal system, I would have ordered it right from the beginning. So these are small things with our hybrid technology, our great support. And on top of that, just I feel like our deployment process really does compete with them extraordinarily well with how much care that we go through, and honestly, meeting the challenges that come through deploying a system. I'm sure everybody here, if anybody has deployed a restaurant, you are well aware that sometimes restaurant owners, they will go down a path and they'll say, hey, listen, I need this to happen right now, and you guys need to make it happen. I would say that we are some of the people that are the most willing to throw down everything and make sure that person is actually happy. And that's a rarity, I feel like, in our industry.
All right, Matt and Ashley, I want to be respectful of your time. I know that you've got your big partner conference that you're doing right now. I see that we're at the top of the hour. There are a couple more questions. If you want to address them now, that's great. If not, I can copy paste them. I can get them sent over to you. We can publish it out to our agents. What works best for the two of you? Because we want to be respectful of your time.
Well, I can tell you that I can probably justify staying here for a little bit longer. Ashley, I'm not sure if she can make those kind of accommodations. She's extraordinary. She's been making this entire partner conference happen, to be quite frank. So I don't want to speak for her time, to say the very least. Unless, do you need me, Ashley?
No.
Okay, I was gonna say, I gotta make sure.
I had to give him strict instructions. Don't make eye contact so we can make it up here to do the call. But I'm going to leave this in Matt's very capable hands. It was a pleasure being on and a privilege. And I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you. So Scott will be in touch too.
Yeah, we will. Absolutely. So Ashley, let's give you a little bit of love. Thank you for joining us here today. Matt, let's start to bring it all home, man. Let's do some rapid fire questions and then we're going to call it a day. DoorDash integrations. Where are we at with that, Matt?
Yep. So not only DoorDash, we have DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, the 3 major ones, and a lot more. So we have direct integrations that Order Counter has built. That was the very first thing that we did. It's a very basic integration. The way that it really specifically works for the restaurants, if you walk in and you see those 3 tablets sitting on the side, it's a very easy conversation. Hey, I see you have 3 tablets on the side. Do you like having those there? The answer is always no. I want to have my counter space open so I can throw a pizza on the counter, or, I can just do, it doesn't look like I'm, managing basically a starship sometimes with some of these customers, with how many screens they have to deal with. So our system will, from the point that you hit the accept button, it will then transmit the order directly into Order Counter, and it shows up under our pending takeout orders from there. Now, beyond that, we have an integration with Kitchen Hub. If you guys aren't familiar with Kitchen Hub, and you might be familiar with people like Chowly or Otter. Kitchen Hub is the very same as those. It's an aggregator of third parties. And the cool thing that it enables is a bi-directional communication. So we, on our basic integration, take the information in. With Kitchen Hub, we can send information back. So if we change a price in order counter, we can then have that transmit through Kitchen Hub all the way to DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats. Now, that being said, you would have to set a flat price in a Kitchen Hub for that, or a flat price increase. So let me give you a quick example. Let's say I'm doing a $10 burger and I want to do a 25% markup because DoorDash is killing me on the markups from there. I can then go into Kitchen Hub and say, yep, 25% markup. And then from there, Kitchen Hub across all three platforms will mark up that those prices appropriately. And then of course, DoorDash Drive, that's probably the one that is specific to DoorDash. We actually can implement that directly into our in-house online ordering. So when somebody doesn't have their own delivery drivers, but they want to do delivery and they hate these third-party companies and they don't want to pay 25, 30% off their bottom line, DoorDash Drive is a great example. They charge a I actually don't know their pricing off the top of my head nowadays. I think it's $7.99 for the first delivery, and then it's additional for miles after from there. But they go onto Order Counter's website. More importantly, the processing is through you guys as well. So you're making all the dollars on this. And then we transmit the data over to DoorDash and assign it to one of their drivers from there for the delivery orders.
I told all of you it's a robust solution. See,
I was
I told
gonna
you.
say,
Let me throw this one over to you. Can you reopen a paid ticket to add more items and then rerun the payout?
yes, we can. I can't show you that on the demo unit right now because there's no payment reader attached to it. But through DataCap's tokenization system, yes, we can. And this is actually fairly recent on Order Counter that we produced this. So, but using that tokenization, we can recall or reopen that check extremely easy, which I can show you how easy that process is from there. So if I hop into my little demo unit here and I clean my screen just a little bit. Sorry, I've opened up a bunch of things in my laptop right now. But if I go under Control Panel, View Transactions, and then here are all my transactions, normally you'll identify an issue fairly early on. So I can go and say, yep, I want to grab my last transaction and view it. I can void it. So you're voiding the payment. And now at this point with the tokenization system, again, instead of asking, would you like to void it? It would actually ask, do you want to unapply the transaction? Think of it as just taking a sticky note and pulling it off of something that you put it on. So now that payment, I've basically taken off the transaction and I have it here in my hand. So now as soon as I hit yes, and I unapply that transaction, obviously give all the reasons and everything of why I'm doing so, I can then go and reapply that transaction at that point from there. So now I have this button that says re-ring transaction. So I can go edit this transaction, and then I can take that payment that I held in my hand effectively, and I could stick it back on, and it will increase or lower the price from there based on what I've edited. Or honestly, and it doesn't have to even be the same transaction as well. Let's say I use someone's wrong, I got the cards mixed up, for example. I can then swap those around and it will adjust the payments appropriately without having the card present.
All right, this is a question. I don't know if you can answer it or not. Could we private label your solution?
Private labeling is an interesting conversation. It's not out of the conversation, but it is above my pay grade. The person that can really answer that is Ashley Ann Thomas. Always happy to work with it though. Based off of volume is usually the thing. It is work for us to make happen, but where there's volume, there's always a way. You'll find that there's very rarely a solid set line in the sand with Order Counter. We are very much so a business that loves working with people and making solutions that work to get business for everybody. I mean, again, if that's something that's really going to help you guys accentuate and become more successful, and there's going to be some volume behind it for us to really, again, justify the time spent on that, absolutely happy to do so. Now, where that actual line falls, again, like I said, above my pay grade, I don't make those decisions. So.
All right, and Matt, tell you what we're going to do, man, because I really want to be respectful of your time here. Let's do rapid fire, 3 questions that kind of tie in together,
Sure.
and then we're going to call it a day.
That sounds great to me.
All right. So, as an example, doesn't have to be exact. a rough guess, a ballpark. What is the average cost for one workstation, being the touchscreen, the cash drawer, the printer? Average ballpark.
Yeah, average ballpark for the first station, including including deployment for this, we're going to talk with deployment fees and such. First station is going to be just about 1350 or so, right around that point. Now, the subsequent stations that you add on to that, the deployment fees will again, we have an initial deployment fee, so you're not going to factor that in. Additional stations after that, about $1,000 for workstation or the point of sale computer, receipt printer, credit card reader, and the cash drawer.
Okay, and everybody, please keep that in mind too. It's kind of a ballpark, so don't write it down as gospel truth. This is just kind of an estimate, just so that we can answer the question that was put into the chat. Second question that ties into that, Matt. What is the average monthly SaaS? How does the SaaS fee work?
Yeah, the average monthly SaaS is going to be, I mean, again, it depends on size of the system. Scott, I mean, are you happy for me to just kind of say, I mean, it's a very simple way that we do this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the way that we price out the point of sale terminals, first POS terminal, $75 per month, second terminal, $50 per month, everything after that, $25 per month, various different costs for things like online ordering, QR ordering, KDS, kiosk, those kind of things that we can obviously on a per needed basis when you guys set up these demos, more than happy to go through it. The demo for the most part is so that we can really get to the end point. And just to let you know, the goal of my demos that I do with you guys individually when you sign a merchant up for that is to get to that point, is to get to the point of what actual hardware do we need? What actual software do you need? And then getting a quote that says exactly what those are line by line. So you have exact cost and exact software cost from there.
All right, last question. We're going to throw it out to you, Matt. What does the installation process look like?
Yeah, installation process, and I'm going to take that question as well. I saw Steve's for the who does the installation, so physical
Right.
site installation. Order Counter, we are a company that is in Pensacola, so we don't have a whole staff that we can ship out across the United States from our own team, personal team that can do this. It doesn't mean that we haven't done this in the past. In extraordinarily rare and progressively rare circumstances, we have done that. Now, what is much more common are two different things. One, you guys as the reps, if you've ever plugged a Clover system in, our system is really no more complicated than a Clover system. So if you've done that in the past, you can do that with us. And the way that I can guarantee you that we can do this is because my deployment teams handled one of my customers that were up from the Northeast. This, God bless Lisa from Gordo's. Love the lady. She's no longer, she actually retired, a couple of years ago. But Lisa, she was probably the least technical person I've ever met. I used to do her support before I worked for Order Counter, and she ended up getting a new system from us. My deployment person was on FaceTime with her, literally, and she was showing she had the cord in her hand, and she was following it with her phone. And I heard my deployment tech saying, no, Lisa, not that one. You need to put it to the one on your right. All right, when you plug that in, you see how there's a green light on there? We did it. Congratulations, Lisa, you plugged it in. And so we are very much so, we try to apply a huge amount of common sense into this kind of stuff where it comes to you guys being implemented. The merchant can even do this stuff. I mean, again, we've walked people through this that are completely, I hate to use the word incapable, but some people know how to run a restaurant. They don't know how to run a power cord, unfortunately. So but like I said, easy stuff, and we usually work with it. That being said, absent both those things happening, we do have access to a group called Field Nation. Field Nation is a litany of third-party techs, and from there that you can basically go and post a job, and then somebody can come out based on that job. That being said, there is a variable cost that goes to doing that. So it's a little difficult for us to quote that out. What we usually do, we say, hey, we've done this enough where we can give you a range from there, and then we're just going to charge you exactly what was charged to us and pass off that cost from there once the job is done. Always, though, what I would much more prefer is if that person, the restaurant owner, or even you guys as reps, if you got a local guy, somebody that knows how to do this stuff that you trust, and honestly, you can kind of go and smack in the back of the head if something happens at that point, and you can really have a dialogue from there. It's so much better having a relationship with somebody rather than getting a random contractor from there. just from personal experience.
Excellent. All right, Matt, thank you so much. To you, sales agent, you want to book an order counter demo? All you got to do is send an email to sales@paycompass.com and you can request an order counter demo. Probably a best practice, give these guys a little bit of lead time over at order counter. So rather than, hey, I need a demo for tomorrow, try to plan it out. At least give these guys a little bit of bandwidth, like 48 to 72 hours notice prior to our team booking the demo on your behalf. But once again, send that email over to sales@paycompass.com. Give a little bit of bandwidth, 48 to 72 hours. It's a pretty nice thing to do for these folks because they've been nice to us. And with that said, let's get everything wrapped up. Let's give a round of applause. Let's give some love to Matt and Ashley from Order Counter. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for going a little bit longer than we thought we were going to. But man, oh man, you did a fantastic job. We really do appreciate it. And to you, the sales agent, you know what? We appreciate seeing you on these calls every single week. Don't forget, we got one more Toolbox Tuesday coming up next week. And we're going to introduce our new partnership with our friends over at Cloud Auto. And once again, if you need anything, reach out to sales@paycompass.com. More than happy to get you pointed in the right direction. Until we meet again, thank you so much for your time. Matt, thank you for going a little bit longer. We do appreciate you, my man. And give our love to Ashley as well. Thank you.
Certainly will. Thank you all for joining me with this. It was great having your questions. I look forward to working with every single one of you, all right?
Excellent. All right, everybody. Until we meet again, take care, stay safe, rock on, and I'll see you next week on Tuesday.